Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Lounging with Leonie. I'm your host, Leonie, and today we are talking midlife crisis, quarter life crisis. Yes, because
I'm not 50.
not yet. We're talking quarter life crisis and pivoting careers. And joining me on the lounge is someone that I met through the UTS mentoring platform. I don't know why I'm a UTS mentor. But here I am. Please welcome to the lounge, Daniel. I should have asked you how to say your last name before. Varrica?
Varrica.
Varrica.
Yeah, Italian.
Daniel Varrica. Welcome to the lounge.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
First podcast, so excuse my rookiness, I guess.
That's okay. I'm totally a rookie too, so don't make this like what a podcast experience should be like.
I'm going to treat it as just a conversation with cameras all around me.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what podcasts are,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like that is. I feel like half the time people who do podcasts, they just sit there
And just chat.
and they just chat, yeah.
And then it's like the editor's role to like figure
Just
out.
put it in, and then they have some third guy that just comes in every now and then as well. And
Yeah. Pretty much. So this is the first time I'm actually meeting you in the flesh, because the first time we ever had a chat was like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, it was longer than that,
Was
wasn't
it?
I think it's like 3, maybe 4.
Yeah.
Time's been going quick.
Yeah.
No, you find it, but it's been
I
going
don't know.
quick.
It has this whole couple of weeks has been crazy. Yeah, you reached out to me through the platform and I was like, okay, why not take another poor student under my wing? I don't know what I was doing. And then we had a really good conversation because you're starting to pivot your career. You had a self-confessed quarter life
Self-confessed,
crisis.
so definitely, yep, that's right.
So what, I guess, made you kind of pivot your life?
It's been one of those things. So I listened to a couple episodes, and I know you've touched on your experiences when you were around my age. But essentially, this has all been going on since it started around 2019, when I just took on my first proper job out of uni in HR.
Yeah.
And everything sort of spiraled out. So at that point, as most people do at that age, they still have the same friends from high school, maybe some people from uni that they met. You're just working things out. You don't really know who you are. And then I reached a point where I had my hobbies that I really liked doing, but my friends weren't really supportive of what I was trying to go for. And I realized that at that point in time, I was like, well, hang on. I've got this group of friends that, I don't really relate with as much anymore. We've all changed. It happens.
Yeah.
I also wasn't sure about my career at the time, but I was putting it off to the side because I was like, nah, you know what? HR will be all right. It'll work itself out. And to be honest, it did in a way. And yeah, I just didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked, what my favorite cuisine was.
Oh, really?
I didn't know anything about myself because I've always been quite a shy, introverted type of person.
Would not have guessed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Obviously, it's been working, all this progress. I was super shy my whole life. I would, shy away from any conversation. I struggled to talk to people, especially people I've never met. I wouldn't go and put myself out there a lot. And I realized at that point, I was like, well, I've got to make some sort of change.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what. And that's when it all sort of kicked off. I realized that, I've got to start actually doing things, because if you're not using your 20s to the most, then you're going to be like this for the rest of your life.
That's true. I feel like in your 20s, you kind of establish habits and like those habits carry on for the rest of your life, I think. But what was like the catalyst? What was the turning point that made you think, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing?
As you know, I've been doing photography for 8 years now, and I've always enjoyed that. And I've always had conversations with people saying, I'd like to do a job that I actually look forward to doing. Like, I actually want to be there. And then everyone used to say, nah, that's impossible.
Yeah.
There's not going to be, a job's a job. You're there to make money, pay off it, buy a house, do the traditional stuff. That's what it's there for. You'll never enjoy your job. I was like, at first I bought into it. And then over time, I'm like, you know what, that's a lie.
Yeah.
The problem was I kept listening to other people, and that's where the friend group sort of came into it, where I was trying to talk to them and they were subscribing to they're more traditional, which is fine. Everyone's got their preferences, but it didn't align with what I was chasing and what I was looking for. I also met new people through work. There were people in my role people actually like doing HR, surprisingly. But they're very passionate about what they do, and they showed me that you can be passionate about what you do work-wise and in your own time, your hobbies and stuff, that you can be passionate, and it's okay to be passionate and put yourself out there. And at that point, that was when I was like, look, yeah, again, it's time for some change.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think when I first started out in my professional career, I landed in a job that it was like related to what I love to do, like making content and stuff, but in an industry which was not what I enjoyed at all. And I was like, oh shit, did I make the wrong decision in my career? And then so I took a break from that and then finally landed in my role now. And I realized actually the job that you do, like there's such a big difference between if you're actually really passionate about what you're doing versus what you're not. And sometimes it's just about being in a different environment. So that could be a huge thing.
It's all about finding the 3 Ps, right?
Okay.
Are
What
there
are the
4?
3 Ps? I don't know.
Oh,
Teach me something.
so this is what I would define as the perfect role, is a role where you have the right people around you. You've got a passion for what you do, whether that's the direction of the company or the job or whatever you do, or you like the role, whatever, and the pay suits. And I know everyone sort of looks at, pay, it's not that important. Pay does play a role.
Yeah.
You can't lie about that, especially once you've been in the role for some time. The money starts to become, because you've got financial goals.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
may want to go traveling. You may want to invest in a property, assets, whatever. Money's inevitable. It's part of everyday life. So if I can find something that meets the 3 Ps, then I'm just like golden.
Do you think it is possible to meet the 3 Ps?
I think you can meet them. I just don't think there's not going to be a perfect scenario where all 3 of them are at an equal level.
Yeah.
So maybe you may have to sacrifice pay for more of a passionate role.
Yeah.
But pay still, if it's enough to keep you going and you can support yourself and you can make savings, like you can't get greedy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I think also if you're coming out of university and starting in your first role, it's hard to meet those 3s.
Oh, yeah.
3 Ps anyways.
Well, I couldn't, no one would ever meet any. I don't think you'll find.
Unless they're like super talented.
Yeah. Like I was lucky that my first role in HR, I was surrounded by really cool people. And to be fair, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do, I did have a passion for helping people out, because at the end, my role was helping out the employee by trying to find out what they want, help them achieve what they want, bring in measures to support people. That's what drove me. But the pay was terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And honestly, it would have got a lot better if I stayed into it. But then the passion started to fade.
Yeah.
And then that P went, and I was like, oh, now I've just got people. But then the people started leaving too. So I was like,
Yeah.
what have I got? I got nothing.
And in terms of like friendship circles, when did you realize, like
I need to
find
it's a tricky one, and I handled that situation so poorly. But what happened was, I have a really good friend I've known since I started TAFE, and he's really into this sort of self-development, growth, chasing your dreams. He also went for a career change too, funny enough. But he said to me one day, he's like, well, I was complaining about, I don't really care for the friends I have, I can't relate to them anymore. And he said, do you really want to live the same year every year? I was like, what do you mean?
Wow.
He's like, how long has this been going on for? Because they got into things that I really didn't, I didn't, see value in, and they were hanging out and doing things that I didn't like doing. I actually felt like a lot of the time I was wasting time being with them, which sounds terrible. And they're great guys, but it's just that our differences, as time went on. What ended up happening is I realized that it's important to align yourself with and surround yourself with people who are in a similar mindset, a similar stage of their life, or have experience. I actually heard just somewhere the other day, they said you want to look up to people who, or speak with people who have what you want as well. And at that point I was like, you know what, I think it's time.
Yeah.
I think it's time. And I went about that it was a mess.
How did you go about it, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, like, what would the ideal situation be like? Like, what have you learnt, I guess? Well,
I would say it's tough, because I would usually say transparency and just be honest.
Yeah.
But people have a hard time accepting the truth.
Yeah.
So I know that even if I did, which I didn't do that, what I did was I shut myself off from everyone, and eventually everyone stopped talking to me. And these are people I've known since primary school, like when I first started growing up with them. And yeah, I just shut myself off and ignored them. And eventually they just went away. And then I might have reached out once and then we had an argument or something like that. And it just like, we lost touch. What I would have done, I would have been a lot more transparent and direct and said, this is where I am, this is what's happening. And I kind of did that. And then they didn't really listen to me. I don't know. I don't think there's a right or wrong way you can...
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if it was me, I kind of just let the relationship fizzle out.
Fizzle out, yeah.
Because it's like, for me, personally, maybe it's just the way I am. I hate, like, offending people. Like, I just want to leave everyone with, like, a good taste, I guess. So for me, it's like, don't burn any bridges. And if that means just kind of like letting it fizzle out rather than like confronting it head on, like, by the way, we're in different places in life, I think we should just like stop being friends or something. I don't know. Because like you never know, maybe in the future you might reconnect again.
Burning bridges is something I've always thought about, and it goes both with people, friends, family. Family's different. Family you can't get away with.
Yeah.
But with friends or work or whatever, burning bridges, everyone's like, oh, you want to always leave on good terms. It's the best thing to do. But sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And in this situation, unfortunately, I wasn't able to. So sometimes it's inevitable. And when looking back, I think I could have done it a lot better for sure. But that's only because I now know what not to do. So at the time, that's just how it was always going to play out.
Yeah.
And that's just, to be honest, do I regret it? That's a hard one.
I mean, it's kind of useless to just like live life with regrets, I think. I think everything in life is just a learning experience. And so now you know how to kind of tackle that in the future.
For sure. And I'm a big believer in that we are exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yes, I agree with that.
Everything happens for a reason.
I mean, I don't know if I agree that everything happens for a reason. I think everything happens and then you kind of make a reason out of it. Like it's up to you to kind of choose where to go next.
But isn't that the same thing?
Is it?
I feel like it is.
Okay. Well, I think it depends on like the person, like what they do with what happens. Yeah. You come up with a reason, I guess.
That's true. You sort of, it happens and then you react.
You react. It's about
Very
how you
stoic
react.
of you.
Oh, I don't know. That's just how I choose to think of it. Because like, yeah, in the past, I've had things happen to me and I reacted really badly with it. And it's kind of like, oh, did this really happen for a reason? Why does life suck so much? But then, you know, as I grew older, I'm so old now.
Ancient.
I'm ancient. I kind of learned like, oh, my reaction to things can really make or break a situation or lead me to a better path or a worse path. So I don't know. Learning to trust the process. Yes, I feel like that's a huge one.
Yeah, and that's something that this year has been, that's where I learned that this year, because this is the year I decided to, well, technically October last year, I quit my job and started studying. That's where it all sort of kicked off. And this year's been tough because I had all these goals. So I wanted to move out from home. I wanted to get a job and I wanted all this within 3 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a reasonable time frame. You know, it'll be sweet. Everyone loves me. It'll be fine. No, they don't. Especially if they don't know you. It's taken a long time to even get a job. And I was just saying that the job I did get is one I didn't really want at the end of the day. But as I was also saying, a potential opportunity has come up and there's a couple more that may come up. And I know that in time, because now I know what I want, I will eventually get it. Even though a lot of times this year I felt like stuck, hopeless. I sort of was seeking validation in the wrong places and I was putting myself in the wrong spot. But you just got to trust the process.
Yeah. But I mean, what is that process? Like some people can feel completely hopeless and they kind of just succumb to it, right?
That's true.
How do you kind of break through that barrier of like not succumbing to the hopelessness? Like what do you actually do to...
I think there's two things I'd say to that. One is you should succumb to it to a degree. I think you've got to accept that sometimes you may feel hopeless, but you aren't in a hopeless situation. And then you say, what can I do today to get me to where I want to be tomorrow? And you may be completely unmotivated. And then that's where I would say, just show up. That's my biggest thing. Just show up. And that's what happened with the UTS mentoring. I reached out to yourself. And then there was another guy, Tom, who works for Amnesty International. And just reaching out was the first step. And then it eventuated into conversations, which eventuated into knowledge. And then that set a new direction. Maybe that's what I should lean into is talk to people.
Yeah.
And seek other people's experiences or perspectives.
That's true. I think that's what a lot of people don't like. They're so stuck in their own mind, I guess. Like, oh, it's all about them. But sometimes reaching out is really what is helpful to kind of get the ball going.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's easy to think that you're alone.
Yeah.
And that you're 100%. The only one dealing 100%. With this. But something I've learned is everyone's got something going on that's bringing them down to some degree. Everyone's got it, and you're not alone.
Yeah.
And just knowing that we're all together in the misery.
Right? The misery depressing. Of life.
But it's true. It's true.
Yeah, I really think it's important, like, who you surround yourself with, though, because they can really bring you up. Like, I've had a really tough week, like, kind of settling into my new role at my job. And it's like, oh, I feel so hopeless in this. Like, oh, my God, can I even do this?
Almost like imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, sometimes like I just had to reach out to my partner or to like my family, and it's like, actually, this is like just a speck of a problem when like in reality, like the situation isn't hopeless at all.
No.
It's just like all in my brain.
Exactly.
So yeah, reaching out is just, and I'm glad you reached out to me because I feel like this is a good conversation.
Look where I've ended up.
I know.
Just by reaching out.
No, I've got some questions for Daniel.
Oh my God.
If you don't mind. So what do you actually want to do?
I want to be on a beach doing nothing.
That's not everyone.
No, I like to, and I'm not, and this is still in progress, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to have a role essentially where I'm able to create the content. So it's content creation. So I'd like to film. I'd like to maybe take photos. I'd like to maybe even do like putting pieces together through Canva or InDesign or whatever. And then I'd like to be able to produce that in accordance to a schedule. And I don't want to be in a role that's completely behind a desk because,
Yeah.
I like to be out and about.
What motivate you to want to get into content creating?
Well, I've been doing photography for 8 years now as a hobby. And I've always loved it. Ever since I got into photography, I really wanted to chase that as a job. I always would be like looking at the National Geographic dudes out in the mountains or something. And I'd be like, oh, I wish that was me.
That's the dream, right?
Just watching the sunrise over a mountain, getting paid for it. Oh, I'd love that. I'd always suppress it. Like I was saying, I'd just suppress that and say, that's impossible. You'll never get there. That's what I told myself. But more as time goes on, that's becoming more and more possible. And I always think, if someone else can do it, I can do it. Well, I guess some people have connections or access to things I don't. But if I work hard enough, I can still probably get to that level.
Yeah.
In some way. It may not be perfect, but I'll get as close as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I read somewhere or I saw like an Instagram meme or something where it was like a lot of people have like a similar dream as like, oh, become rich, become billionaires or like get their dream job. And there's so many people who want that. And then there's people who start it and then they kind of quit. And then there's other people who kind of like keep going. And those people that keep going are the ones that eventually reach it because all the people who quit kind of like create less competition.
Exactly.
For the people who actually have that drive to keep going.
As you get further in, the people start to drop off and off and off like a pyramid.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
and you're going to be at the end.
Yeah. You're right at the top.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I did it.
But to get to that point is like insane. You have to have an insane amount of dedication.
Sure, for sure. I mean, I feel like you have that dedication and drive from what I have heard so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people who are in a similar position, like you're like, oh, they're just stuck in a job they don't like. They kind of just like live with it. They don't have the courage to kind of pivot and like go for another degree or actually go for another job that's completely different to what they've like studied. I think a lot of people are just safe in their comfort zone and they don't want to like challenge themselves beyond that.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of people, even this new job I've taken on, a lot of those guys, they're great people. But I get the impression that a lot of them are there because they have to be.
Yeah.
That's what really resonates with me. They're not passionate about what they're doing there. They're kind of just there because they're
They need
getting
a job.
money.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's the life you really want and you're happy with that, then go for it. I think it's important to remember that not everyone's super entrepreneurial. Not everyone's a go-getter. Some people just want a salary and want to just chill. And they're happy to do that. And power to you for doing that. Like, that's how you want to live your life. That's fine. For me, and for you as well, I imagine that's not the case. But there are people out there who do want that.
Yeah.
And great, less competition.
Exactly. I feel like I'm in between. Like there are times when I'm like, oh, it would just be nice to just, go to my job, come home, chill, relax. But then there's also a part of me that's like, oh, I want to create stuff. I want to make cool things, So I think there is also people who are kind of like in that balance as well. So it's just really about
In the matrix.
yeah.
Got to break from the matrix. Some people love the matrix.
Yeah.
I don't want to offend. I feel like I'm going to offend everyone with my polarizing opinions, but
So polarizing.
so polarizing. No, like everyone talks about dentistry
Right.
being the most boring job you can do in the world. And funny enough, I made a friend who's practicing to be a dentist, and she loves teeth.
Okay.
Weird, but okay.
Bit of a weird fetish.
No, but they say it's the most boring job, but dentists do it because it pays so well and they enjoy their life in their outside of work.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say is like, it's okay if you don't really want to hustle and grind, if you just want a job. But on the contrary, if you are in a position where you're in a job that you don't like,
Yeah.
but you're not doing anything to change or reach something that you do want, then you're really just,
It's kind of a waste of a life.
yeah, and you only get one life.
Exactly.
And how long do you have?
Exactly.
No one knows.
I know. Oh, we could be gone tomorrow. Touch wood.
Be gone today.
Oh God.
You got to be on it.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I think if you're in a position that like there's somewhere you want to be or something you want, then you have to work towards that and understand that it's not going to happen straight away.
Yeah.
Patience. Patience is like, I'm so impatient.
Me too. Don't worry.
I want everything like
Same.
straight away.
I feel like that's kind of like the kind of world we live in now, where it's like so much social validation on social media. Like everyone's attention span is so short. It's like we want everything now.
Exactly. And people are just so everyone just wants things to happen straight away. And it's unrealistic.
It takes time.
And I think it's also bad that a lot of the content we actually consume highlights an unrealistic lifestyle. So there's all these young billionaires, which is happening right now, that people are like, oh, I could have a Lamborghini when I'm 20. It's unlikely.
Exactly.
It's unlikely. Unless you want a big loan. And who knows if they took a big loan out.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of the people that go viral on social media, they're just like the 1-2% of people in the world. Like not everyone can live like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like there needs to be more creators kind of just like showing what everyday life
showing
realistically is.
What life actually is. And there are, in the gymming world, I know I look like someone who's goes to the gym regularly. I wore all black, so you couldn't tell. No, but there's a lot of talk about people who use a lot of steroids and antibiotics and those sorts of things to achieve a really good physique. And even that physique is really hard to maintain. So you got to have, but that's all you see as a young person. And you want to work towards that. And then you realize you get 2, 3, 4 weeks into the gym, you see no results.
Yeah, and then you give up.
Give up.
Exactly.
And that applies to everything else.
That's true. Don't give up.
No.
It actually brings a point because so there was a time when I wanted to kind of quit this podcast because it was like, it's just taking so much time and I'm not getting the results that I want, even though I kind of started this just to kind of challenge myself and to have good conversations with people. But I had a podcast guest who is now a politician in Canberra. And she was like,
damn.
So
wild.
And so she watched one of my recent podcasts where I talked about wanting to give up. And then she said, oh, keep going for it because it took her this many years to get to where she is now. And if she had given up back then, she wouldn't be where she is now.
She'd probably be in a place of regret.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you find motivation?
I don't find motivation.
It just comes to you.
It comes and goes through when things go well. That's when I start to get, like, when things turn up. Like this week, starting this new job, it's been killing the vibe. I've been super demotivated. But then today, well, I got invited to the podcast. Yay.
Yay.
That was sarcastic. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, nice. Is it a good experience so far?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I actually meant that, but sometimes I can come across sarcastic.
I feel like I am the same. It's okay. It's okay.
What were we talking about?
Motivation.
Motivation. Yeah, it comes and goes. Where do I find motivation? When things go right, that's when motivation comes, or when I make progress towards something. But that's like 10% of the time. 90% of the time, I'm either just mellow, like I'm not motivated or demotivated, I'm just plodding along, or I'm like super demotivated, depressed, and like, oh, I really can't be bothered doing this right now. But that's when I start to employ just showing up,
Yeah.
just starting. It's like going to the gym. I started going to the gym 3 years ago, and then this year I broke the equipment, not because I'm super strong, but because it was just cheap. And instead of buying a new equipment, I just joined a gym.
Nice.
And that was great going in, because when your environment changes or you change something, then you become a bit more motivated. But then that fizzled out really quick. And instead of just like giving up completely, I'll be like, I'm just going to rock up to the gym and just do whatever. And some days I won't push myself. I'll do like a half session. And then other days when I'm really feeling it, I'll just go all out.
Yeah.
And I apply that to everything. Just
Are you
doing it.
the type of person that can kind of motivate yourself, or do you need other people to kind of?
I'm very, very much an individual.
Yeah.
I don't use. I am trying to lean off people more, but I also believe that you need to be able to motivate yourself a lot of the time. You can't rely on other people. So yeah, I would say, to answer that question, yeah, I definitely am a self-motivator.
That's good.
But I search from like for external things like
Yeah.
books, YouTube videos, podcasts, whatever.
I see you've listed a recommended sources to read.
Yeah, meditation, Stoicism, huge. And
Can you explain Stoicism?
I don't really understand the
Okay.
actual philosophies. I know there's 4 pillars to it. I don't know the details. All I know is the basic concept is we're going to die.
Yeah.
Very grim.
Yeah.
We're eventually going to die.
Yeah.
And it's also, Stoicism is also about accepting things that are outside of our control. And it's okay to not always have a reaction. Sometimes it happens and it's up to you to decide how you want to react.
Yeah.
Not letting the actions determine how you react and controlling you as a person. Something that happened to me, I was going out to the national park, going around the corner at speed. I wasn't speeding. And a group of deer came out of nowhere.
Gosh.
And I didn't have enough time, and I actually hit one. It was okay. It rolled off and ran off.
Okay.
I hit it, and then I looked at my car, and there was some damage. And previously, when I've been in an accident, I'd be like,
Yeah.
I was so upset. I'd be like fuming, like be upset at the other person. But this time, I looked at it. I'm like, I did what I could.
Yeah.
I just got to get it fixed. It'll be okay. It'll take some time, but it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
I think, and that's like sometimes maybe you might lose your job, and you'd be like, okay, I lost my job. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Where am I going to go from here?
Yeah. What are the next steps you're going to do?
Yeah, it's just like accepting things do happen, and bad things always happen. That's life, but just moving forward.
Yeah.
And not letting it upset your balance.
Yeah.
Your yin and your yang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So deep, so philosophical. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that, because when I was in my like mid-20s, my reaction to situations was probably not the best. Like I wasn't able to control my reaction, or my, I guess, emotional reaction to things. And I think now it's like you learn the way that you react to things really determines what comes next.
Oh, 100%.
It's like I could be really pissed off and angry and blow shit up, and then everyone's upset with me, and it makes, relationships worse. It makes my situation worse. Or I could just like learn to accept what's happened and figure out, what are the next steps? What am I going to learn from this?
Exactly.
And what can I do to make the situation better?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you can save a bad situation by reacting the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Soundbite right there. Having a plan but being flexible. Are you a planner?
No. I'm organized, but I'm also unorganized. I love chaos.
Yeah.
That's why I love Sydney so much. I went to Melbourne earlier this year and everything's all planned out in a nice little grid. I'm like, oh, this is great. But it's not fun because I'm not going to get lost. I know where I'm going.
Right.
Whereas in Sydney, you like take a left turn and you're in, where the hell am I? Or you miss your exit and you're like, Jesus Christ, I got like 10 extra minutes now because of that. I remember hearing that you're a planner.
I am a planner.
And you like to have things.
I like having my schedule, I guess. But I'm also I'm quite flexible with that. So I'll just plot everything that I have to do into my calendar. And it's like, oh, if I'm not feeling it, I might move it to like the next day or something.
I think there are some things that you have to plan. And I think being organized is important.
Yeah.
100%. Like the most important things I do, I definitely plan as far in advance as I can. I like to have that stuff there. But I also like to have times where, example is, I do a lot of sunrise stuff. And yesterday morning, I kind of just woke up and I was like, I want to go for a sunrise shoot today. I just woke up and I was like, oh, I'll just do it. And I didn't know where to go. And I was like, I don't want to go to my usual spot, so I don't actually have enough time to get there before the sun comes up. So I just pulled up Google. Yeah. I found a spot. I went, okay, I'm going here. And then I went. I did no planning.
That's cool.
I did nothing. I just rocked up. And it worked out. And it was fine. But I like to have those moments in my life where I've got a slot of time open. I'm going to now work out what I'm going to do with this slot of time. And sometimes it backfires and I end up scrolling through TikTok on my phone for 2 hours and being completely unproductive.
I argue that sometimes scrolling through TikTok can be productive, especially if you're in the content creation space, okay?
Yes, I was investing my time quite deeply.
You know, just like getting ideas from other creators.
We'll go with that. TikTok's actually pretty good sometimes. But in planning, I say when I made that comment, it was more just to say that it's important. Maybe plan isn't the right. So there's your goals, your vision, where you want to be. And then there's a way you might set out a plan, a roadmap, how you're going to get to that goal. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you don't know how to get to that goal in reality because you don't have the goal. Unless you've got the goal, you won't know how to get to the goal. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at it. And you can do as much research and talk to as many people, but ultimately you're an individual who reacts completely different to everyone else. Yeah. It's important to have something to work towards, but don't be attached to the method.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because it's like you can have your goal and then you can start planning everything, right? Yeah. But if you don't actually take action to do it, it's just like a goal with a plan.
Yeah. And sometimes you can have a plan and then you might take the first step in your plan and then you might go on a completely different road. Yeah. And your goal might change, which is what happened to me. And that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
That's what life is,
That's it. Life's unexpected and things happen and you don't really know yourself until everything happens in time.
Funnily enough, I actually plan those days where I do nothing.
Oh.
So I'm like, I have a free day there. I'm going to plan to do nothing and just see where it takes me.
Do you put like a block in your calendar?
I don't actually I just leave it free.
But how do you know that that's your...
Because everything else is just so full. It's like, okay, I have a free day. So I might wake up one day.
This unusual block of nothing is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I'm just going to explore or see where the day takes me.
Yeah.
And that works for me. It might work differently for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different. Some people I have a few friends that plan everything and do not deviate. Mm. And again, if that works for you, then that's fine. Yeah. I think what happens when you're trying to find the direction going through a quarter life crisis and you're like, I want to change, but I don't know what I want to change to. That's where I would talk about the ikigai. Have you heard about ikigai before? You haven't?
I haven't. I think
Where have you been?
I think I've heard the term, but I haven't actually really looked into.
So it's a beautiful Venn diagram, I think it's called, the one with the circles that overlapped in this morning. Mm-hmm. I think that's a Venn diagram, where it's a Japanese philosophy about finding your purpose in life. Mm-hmm. So essentially it's got 4 quadrants on the outside. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so what you're good at, what the world needs, what you love, and what you get paid for.
Yeah.
So
I have seen this diagram.
Yeah.
Before.
And then they sort of feed into your mission, passion, profession, vocation, and that's your ikigai. It's like super hard to actually, and that's the book I recommend too, the actual, the one with the little cherry blossoms. Yeah,
Yeah.
ikigai.
I
I
want to read that.
That's a great book. But yeah, I think that's a good tool to sort of work out what you want to do. And it's going to be a hard one to work out. But if you look at that, you can sort of have an idea and say, I want to get into IT, and say, oh, what part of IT fits here? And do I love it? Does the world need this?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest struggle I've had going into content creation.
Yeah.
Because I look at all these negative companies that influence people to do things that they shouldn't really be doing, like gambling. But there are ways. And I found that through the non-for-profit sector is a way that I could potentially reach my ikigai, because I'm doing what I love, but I'm also benefiting the greater good. So there's always a way. Unless you're drug dealing. No, you're never going to achieve it there. But you may be making good money. So
Yeah.
Oh, there's good in that as well.
Oh, is
is there? Are you going to say pharmaceuticals?
No, pharmaceuticals is the bad one, is it?
No, the industry's bad, but the products are good.
We need more people to be awakened,
Oh.
especially our world leaders.
Oh, yeah, very
That's
true.
true.
Very true.
I've never done drugs before, so I wouldn't know.
Actually?
I'm clean.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
totally
believe it.
am. I have never, except like, unless they're like prescription drugs.
What are you talking about? Red Bull is a drug.
Is it?
Caffeine's a drug.
Okay, in that case.
Alcohol's a drug.
Okay, in that case, I've done so many drugs.
Painkillers are a drug too.
That's true.
Yeah, but they're like.
But they're
made by-
legal. So
yeah.
you're saying I don't do
Illegal
illegal
drugs.
substances. Do you know
Exactly.
nutmeg's a hallucinogen?
What?
Nutmeg.
Nutmeg? Really?
Yeah, if you take enough nutmeg, you can actually hallucinate. I haven't tried it. Fun fact. I find that interesting.
That I haven't done any illegal
Why?
drugs. I've just
Have
never.
you been in the situation first that actually...
No, I don't think I've ever been in a social situation where
Yeah.
someone's been like, "Hey, have some whatever."
Here's some weed.
Yeah. Exactly. I've never, I don't know. I think my social circle might be also very clean as well. I don't know. The kind of people I hang out with.
You've got some good friends.
Yeah. Well, actually, funnily enough, they've done drugs, but for some reason I haven't. So I don't know. The only time when I've been close to is when I was like super, super depressed, like at the end of like my wits' ends. And I asked a friend, "Oh, can you get me some like ecstasy?" And I didn't.
It's so lame how you said
I
that.
know.
Can you get me some ecstasy?
so-
It's like you're behind the counter ordering a
I'm
prescription.
telling you, I'm like, I don't know.
You're green.
I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then like, so that's the only situation where I've had it, but my intention wasn't to like get high or anything. It was actually to like end my life.
That's depressing.
Yeah. But I didn't even like I never took.
Why didn't you do it though? Was it because you couldn't get it?
I think I had like 3 or 4 pills, and I also had my antidepressants, and I
Oh,
was so my plan was to like
So you did get them?
yeah,
Oh,
but I never actually took them.
but why?
That is a very good question. There have been times when I've wanted to. I think one time I was like with an ex-partner and he kind of like stopped me and like flushed them down the toilet.
Nice.
And then I think the other time my mum was worried about me and she came in and confiscated it.
Damn.
So, yeah. But I guess there were times when I could have taken it.
If you didn't have those people there,
Yeah.
do you think you would have?
Maybe. Maybe.
Hard to say.
Hard to say. Like again, that was like during a really tough time in my life. And now I've learned how to actually deal with situations that won't lead me to down that path.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have not been there.
Okay.
Maybe
Good.
it might happen to me.
Oh, well, hopefully you learn how
No, it's okay.
to just surround yourself with good people, I think.
Not only that, I think it's just, like you just said, finding the best way to deal with it without resorting to like external forces.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll just be sitting there and be like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Why am I doing all this? It's
Yeah.
so hopeless. I'm doing all this work and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm just going to call it quits, you know.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, trust the process.
Yeah. I still have those times when it's like, oh, everything's hopeless. Well, how am I going to like get through this? And it's just like, just show up and
That's it.
just do it.
That's it. I think if and knowing that everyone else is in the same situation in some way or another,
Yeah.
what they're obviously upset about is different to everyone else, but the feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Exactly.
You're not alone. And just reach out.
Exactly.
It's huge.
Reaching out, seriously.
And if you don't feel like you have people to reach out to, I would encourage you to reach out to those people that you feel you don't want to reach out to, because they've been through times in their life that can actually resonate with you. And you don't know that until you actually have those proper conversations.
Exactly.
And it's great to see that there's more awareness being spread about mental health, because it's just always been one of those things that's always been pushed to the side.
Exactly.
And it still does.
I mean, life's hard. Like,
I've said,
yeah, like you might as well just like make it, like the first step is always the hardest. But once you do that first step, it kind of builds the momentum to like keep going.
so as this person equipped with all these tools and knowledge, say you are, because it happens. Say you're in a pickle where you're just like absolutely depressed, and you feel like you're just in this dark pit, a well. What do you do?
What do? The first thing I do is put on some BTS.
Nice, nice. I can't resonate, but
Because yeah, I think BTS music actually helped me a lot to get out of like my dark.
really
Yeah, like 100%.
nice.
I think it was just like, it gave me a distraction. It's like, oh, following these 7 Korean boys and just watching their content. It was like, it was distracting my mind,
Yeah.
you know? And then their music was very uplifting. So I think like music is a huge thing for me. If I'm in a bad mood, I put on music that I really enjoy. And then reaching out to people, like people I trust, big brother, my friends, my partner, like that's a huge thing, because they know me almost as well as I know myself, I would say.
That's really good.
Yeah. Because I feel like I am a very open and transparent person when it comes to my emotions. If I am feeling upset, I'll let somebody know. And like, it's not with the intention of like, oh, here are all my problems, fix them for me, give me comfort. It's more like, hey, I'm actually struggling right now. Just like look out for me while I kind of find my feet.
What would you say to people who don't know how to, because a lot of people keep their emotions, and I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
Who just bottle it up and don't communicate it.
Maybe it's not just about verbally communicating it with somebody. Maybe it's just about writing down how you feel. I think bottling it up is just horrible.
So just journaling.
Journaling.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. I've always been, I think, like ever since I was a young child, just writing about my emotions. And I think that has helped me to become a lot more transparent and open with people about how I feel. And through that, actually, like I used to make vlogs where I would like seriously sit there and talk about my sad emotions and then like upload them to YouTube. But then like people would find those videos and be like, oh my God, I relate to you so much. Thank you for making this video. And it's like, wow, actually, I'm not the only one feeling this way. There are other people who feel the same way.
Definitely.
And it's like, once you do that, you kind of build a bond with these people and it's like, you're not alone.
Exactly.
So really, I think if it's hard for you to express how you feel, just start writing it down.
Yeah, and if you don't know, I don't journal a lot, but there was a time when I was towards the end of my last job in HR where things just exploded. And I tried journaling for the first time. If you don't know what to write, I think it's just best to just start typing.
Yeah.
It'll come naturally.
Yeah.
I was like going at it. I almost broke the keyboard. But it was like, I just started typing. I was like, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
I just started typing. And then as soon as I finished, I looked at it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And I feel like
It's out
it
of my
gives you
head.
more clarity. Exactly. Yeah.
You can see.
That's kind of like how I feel with like planning things. There's just so much in my head that until I get it down on paper, it's like, oh, my head's finally a bit more
It's
clear.
like you're manifesting it onto something that you can actually see.
Yeah. It's more tangible.
Yeah.
So that's what like emotions are as well. You know, when you verbalize it, it becomes more like, oh, that's actually how I feel. If you write it down, that's, oh, that's how I feel.
Yeah. But it's also important to, once you do write it down, if you choose to do that, to look at it and read it and think, why am I actually upset? Is it that big of like, and you shouldn't you should be very careful when you dismiss your emotions. That's a very
Yeah.
dangerous game to play because you may think it's not a problem, but it actually can be.
Yeah.
But sometimes you may be so upset about something so petty. It's like, you know what? It's not that important,
Yeah.
but it's good that you got it out there.
Exactly. What is one thing that you are most grateful for today?
Being on a podcast. No. I think what I'm most grateful for is the connections that I've been able to build in the last 6 months, because all these people in various places that I've been able to connect with have helped me define where I'm going. And that's the biggest, for a quarter life crisis, if you're going through one, you don't have to label it as it's a period of change.
Yeah.
It's just more catchy when you say quarter life crisis. It's like a BuzzFeed tag.
True. I mean, everyone goes through like something, like no matter where they are in their life, there's always something.
Yeah, 100%. But what I'm most grateful for is definitely being able to reach out to people and just learning that, you know, people have been where I am and it worked out, and that I should just be patient and trust the process.
What am I grateful for today is I feel like life has been very, very busy and challenging these past couple of weeks, but being able to lean on friends, family, partner for support has been something that I've been very grateful for, because it's like, it's just a reminder that I'm not alone in this and that there is people to support. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah, it's huge. Just reach out to people. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know how they're going to react. But sometimes you may reach out to the wrong person and it just it all goes backwards.
Maybe.
So reach out to a broad range of people.
Yeah.
Diversify. Don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
As they say. On introversion, is that the term?
Yes.
Is it introversion? Sounds
is
like Inception. I
introversion.
think when I say introversion, I think of Inception. It shouldn't be an excuse.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I am technically an introverted person first, but I've learned how to be more extroverted. But 9 times out of 10, I'd rather be in my room just chilling on my own.
Yeah, I feel
chilling.
that. I feel that.
Yeah, no. Don't use your problems as an excuse. Use them as an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think introversion is a problem. I
No.
think it's just, I guess, learning how to break out of that barrier.
Overcome it.
Yeah, overcome it.
Yeah.
Like, there are situations where I feel like being an introvert is way better than being an extrovert, because a lot of people just kind of like sit and listen, and you learn so much from just doing that.
It's easy to talk.
Yeah.
You can say whatever's on your mind, but it's hard to listen.
Yeah.
And when I say listen, it's not just you talking and I just sit there and pretend I'm listening. It's actually waiting and absorbing what's being said and finding something that you can come back with that adds value to that conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's no sense saying, oh, I just got this job. That's an example that you might say. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, I just got this job too. It's way better.
That's what a lot of people do.
Yeah, they do. Douchebag moves.
Yeah.
Or they just talk over you, which happens. You talk over people sometimes, but it's like when you consistently do it, or when you just don't recognize what someone's saying to you. Yeah, being a good listener is like, it'll get you far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I started this podcast as well.
Would you say you're a good listener?
I'm trying to learn to be better
At listening.
at listening.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought you'd be naturally good at listening.
At listening? Well, I guess the other thing is like being who I am. It's like there's just so much going on in my brain at all times. So it's like I could be sitting there being quiet, but also have like a billion things going on in my mind that I kind of get distracted very easily.
Yeah, then that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you're trying to...
Like learn how to like actually be engaged in a conversation.
Huge. I'd like to call to... I can't say big brother, it feels weird, but maybe big brother-in-law.
Just big brothers. He is big brother.
Would you say that you're someone that's good at listening, talking? Is that something that you've had to improve upon? Is he even listening right now?
I am actually.
He was absorbing.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm very analytical, so I enjoy listening and absorbing people's point of view, and then exactly what you said, which is to add value if I can. If I don't, then I keep my mouth shut.
On that, People are afraid of the silence in conversations.
Mm.
Have you? I mean, there's times like on a podcast, it's content. It's got to be consistent. But outside of this, in the real world,
Yeah.
silence is inevitable. I say
Yeah.
that a lot.
Inevitable.
I say that word a lot. Yeah.
It's a good word. Inevitable. Yeah. Silence is an awkward thing. And I think there have been a lot of moments in my podcasts when I've had guests on where it's kind of like silent. And I think there was one podcast where we acknowledged that silence and we were just like, we should make awkward silences just a thing.
I think enjoy.
Just to sit there and be in each other's company in silence.
Yeah, and that what you just said there was what I was going to lean into, is you should be enjoying the company as well, and that doesn't have to be through a spoken conversation. It can just be being there. The silence is fine.
Yeah.
Don't feel especially if you're on a date.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
so many awkward
I
moments.
just had all the flashbacks come to me at once.
I feel like sitting in silence with somebody and having it feel comfortable is just like, that's when you know that you feel safe in someone's presence, I feel like. Because if you have the feeling like the need to always have something to say, it's kind of like almost anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
So if you're able to just kind of be in silence with somebody and it's comfortable, it's like, nice.
This is good.
Yeah. So where can people find you if they're interested in looking at your photography?
Right here, right now.
Right here, right now.
So there's my Instagram, which is where I'm most prominent, Dan_cameraman.
Well, thank you for joining me on the lounge, Daniel. It's
Thank you
been
for
a
having me.
pleasure. If you could leave the podcast with one piece of advice for anyone watching, what would it be?
Trust the process. Trust the process. Keeping it consistent.
Yeah. Show up.
Just show up. I would say to people who are in situations where they're of uncertainty, maybe they're also in a quarter life crisis or a period of significant change, just start somewhere. Take the first step, and it's okay to not know where you're going, but as long as you take that first step, the path sort of reveals itself slowly. It's like a video game. You know those dungeon games or whatever where
you have to explore the map.
Yeah, and then you can actually see further as you make progress. You sound like nerds after saying that. But yeah, take the first step, and just keep going. And then when you do feel stuck again, then find sources of inspiration, books, people. Yeah, that's huge. But yeah, first step.
Good luck on your journey, everyone. And thank you for listening to the podcast. I will see you guys in the next episode.
Adios.
Bye.